Hello and welcome to Roundtable. Rising Hindu nationalism in India, fueled by the ruling BJP party, has led to widespread attacks on Muslims, Sikhs and Christians in that country. Now these issues are being exported to the United Kingdom. Violence in Leicester, a city with a substantial British Asian population, erupted after a cricket match between Indian and Pakistani local teams. But many weren't surprised and said tensions had been building for months. Very good to have your company. I'm David Foster. That disorder in Leicester exposes a worrying trend where national politics in India have created cracks in the wider diaspora, including in the US and Canada. Hindutva is a political ideology endorsed by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which advocates for Hindu supremacy in India. Chants of Jai Shri Ram by some Hindus in Leicester, which translates from Hindi as glory to God Ram, is a popular slogan that has become synonymous with anti-Muslim violence in India. While there may be cause for calm in Leicester now, there are concerns that the unrest may spread nationwide and beyond. We will now talk to Sharmen Rahman. She's a Labour councillor for Leicester. And in Uppsala in Sweden, we say hello to Ashok Swain, Professor of Peace and Conflict Research at Uppsala University. Sharmen, let me start with you first of all. It was initially put out that this was because of tensions between a Pakistani cricket team and an Indian cricket team, local teams, but that's been rubbished by someone. What's your view?
Yes, I mean, generally we've had the same feedback from many of the people on the ground that actually indications and tensions had been rising for quite some months now. And actually our feeling on the ground is very much the same, that we've seen indications of this type of sort of feeling and sort of animosity building for quite some time.
But this is a religious issue rather than a national issue. This is not Pakistan against India. This is Indian Hindus who are targeting, in your view and in the view of many others, Muslims, no matter whether they're from Pakistan or whether they're in India, or in fact in Leicester.
Actually, for me, I don't see this as a religious issue. I see this as a political one, because I feel like when we discuss the issue in terms of religious terms, it actually insults whatever religion we're talking about. We're talking about a very small minority of people that have got a political ideology that they affiliate with, and they are using religion as a means to enact that political ideology. And that's very much our thoughts, because if you look at the reality on the ground in Leicester City, the overwhelming majority of Leicester's Hindu population, Muslim population, Sikh population, every other religion and those of no religion all get along peacefully and don't have this type of tension nor issue, no worldview.
And how are things in Leicester now?
We're in a little bit of a calm at the moment. However, we're very, very cautious because obviously we've got some celebrations around the corner, but also we don't want to take this for granted. We know that this hasn't miraculously been cured. Many of the people that were active on the streets are still out there and could still cause some trouble. So police are on high alert, city council is on high alert, every resident is still on very much high alert. And we're very much sort of putting all our energy into ensuring that this doesn't happen again.
Thanks very much. You talk about celebrations. I assume you're referring to Diwali, and I will come back and talk about that in just a moment. Ashok, let me come to you first of all. We have Sharmen there talking about the fact that it has been bubbling under in Leicester for some time. Is this an issue in other parts of the UK and other parts of Europe, United States, as well as in Leicester? In other words, are we seeing something that's growing? Well, for what reason? You tell me.
Yeah, I think we need to realize there is a growing number of Indian diaspora in different parts of the world. And with that also, there is in the recent years, we see there is an increasing number of conflicts, even though, all sorts of ways between the different diaspora groups. So the diaspora is heavily divided in the Indian diaspora I'm talking about. There have been the confrontation recently in Australia, particularly between the Hindu diaspora and the Sikh diaspora when the farmers' protest movement was going on in India. There is also, for a number of years now, there is a confrontation, particularly between Hindu diaspora and Sikh diaspora in Canada. There have been recently in Los Angeles, there was a confrontation between Hindu diaspora and a Muslim diaspora or the secular diaspora there. So I think it is growing quite a big way, the kind of way that you wouldn't have expected beforehand. That the diaspora has, we need to realize that the Indian diaspora has been divided since '92 to some extent on religious lines. But this confrontation or the going into the taking the arms or being a gang-like behavior between the different diaspora is a very new and recent thing.
But the thing is, the question comes to me, Narendra Singh Modi has been in power for a few years now, quite a few years, and yet suddenly we're seeing this eruption in nationalistic politics and the fervor going towards the Hindutva. And you see these people behind me, they are well, that's a photograph of the RSS, which is the quasi-Hindu paramilitary organization, which we might refer to in just a moment. So why, since he's been at the top of Indian politics for nearly a decade, why are we seeing trouble now?
You see, it takes time for the diaspora the groups to organize. The Hindu diaspora has been mobilized for some time between the RSS international group, they call it HSS, and also the BJP's foreign wing also active. Most of these countries where the larger number of diaspora are there. So I think it is somehow they have been working for many years now. But what has happened that it is, there are three things we need to remember. That when Narendra Modi came to power, he has come to the different foreign cities and organized diaspora meetings of his supporters. Means he is actually mobilizing the Hindu right-wing diasporas in the foreign countries for his support, and also in the name of creating, that's also creating a huge division between the diaspora here.
Sorry, yeah, you finish your point and then I'll come in.
No, I think it is also, we need to realize that as I was mentioning, that all these, the different groups are also gaining strength. They are also which are RSS and the BJP's external wing. But also Indian media is playing a major role of instigating this Hindu diaspora, Hindu right-wing diaspora, which are in the different parts of the world. So when you see the Leicester violence, you see that the way the Hindu right-wing diaspora was being mobilized, not only by RSS and the BJP, but also by the Indian media to a large extent.
May I ask you this separately, but it's a question directed at both of you, and if I may say so, Ashok, you are Hindu. Sharmen,
yes, I am.
You are Muslim, and therefore the nature of your response may well indicate if you understand some of the issues from an inside society point of view. Do the Hindus who are protesting, part of the Hindutva, do they have particular issues that they want to get across? First, from your point of view, Ashok, what are they saying? What are they protesting about?
I think this is something which is interesting, particularly when you look at the Hindu right-wing politics in India. Hindus are in power in India for the last 77 years when the 75 years of independence, 75 years of independence. The Hindus have been in power politically, economically, but there is a growing, or there has been this, the idea that it's not actually, Hindus need to reclaim the country. And I think this is where the mobilization has been by the Narendra Modi's party, BJP and RSS. They have been actively mobilizing this, that the secular forces or the non-Hindu forces have actually taken over the country. So
okay, so that's their grievance. Sharmen, thank you for being so patient and waiting. You are a Labour councillor. I mentioned you're a Muslim, but that probably doesn't come into your day-to-day work within the community. Therefore, you listen to Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, all sorts of different people of religious persuasion. What grievances do you hear, if any, that you consider perhaps to be remotely plausible, do you hear from the Hindu community that might have led to some of this?
To be honest, I don't recall any grievances as such. I do know that certain political issues have brought to light some sort of indications of right-wing sort of perhaps Modi-aligned sort of thought, but actually no such specific grievances have been raised with me. This is somewhat, whilst we weren't surprised, this was somewhat shocking, the events of the last few weeks. So we weren't really expecting things to come to this level. And so therefore, I can't actually recall any grievances that would have led to this type of behavior.
Let's play something that is being said on behalf of both the Hindu and Muslim community in Leicester.
What we have seen is not what we are about. We together call upon the immediate cessation of provocation and violence, both in thought and behavior. We together call upon the inciters of hatred to leave our city alone. We are a strong family. We will work together to resolve whatever concern may arise. We do not need to call upon the assistance from outside of our city. Leicester has no place for foreign extremist ideology that causes division.
So there we have a Hindu leader, but talking on behalf of both the Hindu and Muslim community in Leicester, saying we are a strong family, indicating perhaps other religions in that as well. Is that a fact, Sharmen? Is it a strong family?
It is. And I know this because this has been my home for many, many years. I've chosen to bring up my children here. And I know this because of the way that people have responded in the aftermath of these events. These actions do not represent the majority of the people who just seek to live peacefully. Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, they all want to live and give their children the best of opportunity. We all have the same intentions. And when you look at the way that the media has portrayed many of the events of the last few weeks, actually that served to create more of a divide than the divide that there actually is on the ground. Much of the story has been geared around Muslims fighting with Hindus, but the reality is it was a small handful of people who had an extremist view of the world versus lots of Hindus and Muslims together. You don't hear this on the media, but there were lots of Hindus that were helping out the Muslims and the Sikhs on that day. There was a Muslim imam that protected the temple on that day. And those are the stories that don't quite fit the narratives. They don't make the headlines, but that is the reality of Leicester.
Okay, so if on the one hand, on the one side, you have reasonable people who are being unfairly attacked, and on the other hand, you have a mob, I don't know how many, you'll probably tell me, that is whipped up, if you like. Describe, if you can, the kind of person, because you know the people in Leicester, that joins a mob like that.
I couldn't give you personality traits, but what I can tell you that the reality for Leicester City, specifically young people, so one of the things you will know that majority of the 200-300 protesters, marchers, were under 30, probably much, much younger than that. So young people who feel that this somehow gives them a purpose. And if you look at what Leicester has been through over the last sort of 15 years, you've had austerity, you've had COVID, and then you've had cost of living crisis. And COVID specifically has hit these areas really, really hard because a lot of the factories that many of the people used to work in have now closed. So you've got lots of unemployment, income generally has gone down, and the costs of everything has gone up. Now, that's not a reason to do what they did. However, that does provide fertile ground for any kind of extremism and extremist ideology to thrive.
And so Hindutva as a philosophy, and I'm being generous in using a word like that, which is imbued with so much great historical significance, but with that kind of approach, if you like, is deliberately targeting the young.
That is my view, that this is a targeted, I think all extremism, they use specific methods to target those that are most vulnerable. And right now in our society, young people have had a really, really tough time, and they are finding life pretty difficult. They don't have much hope. Education is on a all-time high in terms of cost, and opportunity is at an all-time low. So the reality is they are ripe for the picking for any extremist.
Ashok, let's talk about what the authorities either could do or are doing. It's been suggested to me that in the UK in particular, they have been looking, security forces in whatever guise, at Muslim extremists over the years rather than Hindu extremists. Are they taking this problem at all seriously?
I think we need to realize that the Islamic extremism has been on the agenda, or the security forces agenda, for the last minimum 20 years or 22 years in the West. And I think there has been a gradual shift that other diaspora, particularly Hindu diaspora or Hindu extremist diasporas, will be coming to their notice soon. But as we look at it, I think it will take some time how they will be dealing with. But looking at this, what has happened in the UK or anywhere, there are traditionally the Indian diaspora was not divided, or even if divided, they used to know how to respect each other, how to live, and also economic, the regular.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but what I'm asking is, have the authorities ignored rising Hindu extremism because they've only been looking in one direction, and that is Muslim extremism or alleged Muslim extremism?
That's what I was trying to answer, because the thing is, yes, it is gradually realization is coming, but it's a gradual one, because if you look at the violence which has taken place, these are most of the people, those who are young, and probably the new immigrants, those who have come from India in recent years. And they have come with a different kind of philosophy or a Hinduism, the kind of Hindutva is teaching them, and as the kind of organizational structure they find in the different parts of the world, including England, that's what they are taking advantage of.
Well, you talk about people coming into England, a new type of person, perhaps. Let's hear from a former mayor of Leicester.
This new community that has come from India should be educated and know that this should not happen. Without education, nothing can happen. They are under the RSS, BJP and Modi's influence.
So he is suggesting, as we heard from Ashok, that perhaps it's a new type of person who's maybe deliberately coming into this country from India, younger people, to deliberately cause trouble. Is that something you hold with, Sharmen?
I wouldn't say something like that without access to the facts. And the reality is there is an inquiry that will be happening. And I'm very averse to deliberately sort of stigmatizing a new minority in the city, which may not be the actual facts. So I would prefer to wait until the inquiry has happened. The reality is you don't need a new minority to arrive in order to have ideas. The reality is social media is the biggest sort of vehicle, if you like, to transport ideas from one location in the world to another. So right now, I don't think we're in a position to sort of prescribe exactly where these ideologies came from until we have complete access to
Not just
that.
their ideas and ideologies, but the people. Ashok, I want to read something out in just a second, but say what you've got to say now.
Yeah, I just want to add that I didn't say that deliberately coming. I said the new immigrants are more engaged in this violence, but rather than the immigrants.
I get it. I'm sorry if I inferred that you said that, but that was what Abdul Razak Osman actually said. He said they're deliberately coming. Let me read this out. In terms of the spread, and maybe this is influenced by social media. Last year, academic conference in the US addressing Hindu nationalism was targeted by right-wing Hindu groups, which sent death threats to participants. Forced a number of scholars to withdraw. Canada, you've mentioned it. According to an investigation earlier this year, some 18 Canadian academics said they faced harassment by local diaspora groups and foreign trolls for criticizing Modi's government in India and its support for Hindutva. How do you, Ashok and Sharmen, clamp down on this? How do you prevent it from becoming a bigger issue than it is at the moment?
I think what happens here is that, of course, the academics or the activists, those who are raising voice, they have silenced the media, Indian media. They have silenced the Indian academics. I think when the people, those who are living abroad, when they raise the voice, they are trying all sorts of, taking all sorts of measures how to stop them. Trolls are only one. They are also stopping people to travel back to country, different types of threat. How I think the responsibility of the countries, those who are receiving this, where these academics or activists are staying, they do have also responsibility to protect this, because they do have, these academics do have the right, or the activists do have the right to freedom of expression. They are doing what they are supposed to do. And I think it should not be treated that as if, this is something a foreign country's issue, we should not get engaged. This is a matter of what are the rights these academics have or these activists have. And I think the countries, the host countries, the European countries and North America and Australia and New Zealand, or the countries where these diaspora are living, they need to take this seriously. Particularly the people, those who are regime managed activism doing here, regime supported activism doing here, they need to be taken into task, that if it is the case that you are so much happy with the regime, what sort of right you have to escape from the political, in the name of political prosecution. So I think it's a somehow needs to be relooked and needs to be seriously thought of by the host countries when this kind of regime-supported activism is going on.
Okay. So it's up to each individual country to take a look at the way that it either conducts or polices this sort of event, rather than for the whole Indian community to talk about it themselves. But I want to ask you, Sharmen, and then back to you, Ashok, about, we mentioned Diwali, the big festival coming up. It is principally a Hindu festival, but it is enjoyed in India and perhaps elsewhere by other religions as well, by the Jains, the Sikhs, Christians, because it's a great big party. Are you worried that it could be taken over in Leicester?
I'm cautious. I'm not worried as such. I think there is a desire amongst the city, amongst all stakeholders, but in the general population, to ensure that this festival goes as successfully as it does every year. Obviously, Leicester is home to the second largest Diwali celebration in the world, and we're very proud of that, regardless of what religion we're from. That is part of our diversity, and it's one of the things that every citizen in Leicester celebrates. And actually, you'll see lots of Muslims, lots of Sikhs, Jains, as you said, Christians, all will attend the Diwali lights switch on, and will attend the many celebrations after that. So I'm cautious. I'm not, I don't think that we should be worried, and I don't think that residents should be worried. I think that residents should get ready for a celebration and try and enjoy the season as much as possible.
But difficult, isn't it? And you remind me when Diwali is actually going to take place. But difficult because if you put out too many police on the streets, it's going to cause tensions. If you don't have enough, it might allow problems to happen.
Yes, and I think we've had to look to the community for guidance around that. And I think from the community, there has been a desire for increased police presence because of the fact that they want to feel safe. And because of that, I think the police have decided that they will. They will be trying to assure residents as much as possible and do whatever they can to ensure that the event goes as smoothly as possible.
Let's hope it does. Ashok, we've got about a minute and a half. You're a Hindu. I want to ask you how you're going to enjoy Diwali and how you think it might be celebrated where you are in Sweden, where the nights are already drawing in.
Yeah, I think, Sweden still hasn't really got those kind of, the violent gang behavior, but among the Indian diaspora, but I think it is a matter of serious worry. But there are two things. The community activists, they need to be, or the elders, they need to be very careful, and the increased police presence. police needs to take it seriously, these kind of actions, rather than just thinking that these are the matter between the diaspora and they just take the hands-off approach. And I think the European police forces need to really take this matter into a very serious consideration.
Okay, I know Leicester pretty well. Sharmen, I started my broadcasting career in that part of the world. These things do bring people together. You must be very excited, but also a little bit worried.
I'm very cautious. I think that's the word that I would use. We are very excited because of the fact it's been a very difficult few weeks. And this is exactly what the city needs. We're all looking forward to the celebrations, and we're hoping that everyone has a fantastic few days, and hopefully everybody will be safe.
Quickly, when is it?
I actually couldn't tell you the day. I was trying to.
Okay, everybody, thank you for coming on the programme. If you want to know when it is, look it up. From me, David Foster, and the Roundtable team, goodbye for now.